first thing on our agenda, with an item, is the consent agenda.
Just the front side.
And, does the board, do any board members wish to pull any one of the consent agenda items for discussion?
Can I just inform one of the officers, ma'am?
Absolutely.
I sent some information on the board communique related to item 10G, indicating oversight. Yeah, I just, if there's any questions, we'll answer those. I just didn't want to miss the opportunity. But I think the board update was clear. We thought we had brought something for your approval, and we did it. And we're halfway through the first phase of that contract.
If I may add, if you turn to the memo, the amount is correct on the memo. It would be a total of $34,236.98.
Ma'am, are we talking about the Avidos?
Yes, ma'am. This on under Avidos. The amount that was included in the agenda was for the June session, but to include June and July, that would be $34,236.98.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the consent agenda with the stated correction. Year of 34,000 and change, even though it is in the memo. Second.
Mr. Chairman, second. All in favor? Motion carries. So on to citizens to be heard. None. Presented. Under administration, the consideration of a resolution to be submitted for the TASB 2014-2016 advocacy agenda. That would be me. Okay, yes, ma'am.
I have, on that one, Madam President, I provided some literature. In the board update, just indicating what the resolutions for TASB has been and what the priority list was. I hope that helped inform what's already up there. So the idea was just that you review it, and if there's anything else you wanted to add, then we would. But they do have it in this list already. I couldn't find anything that I would include, but that doesn't mean that.
Did any board member have
I have
anything
nothing
they
extra.
felt would be good for us to add to the advocacy agenda? Okay. So. Make a recommendation to, I'm looking for the recommendation, I'm sorry, hold on. But we have to accept, we don't have to take action on it. Let's move on.
As if we wanted to.
If we wanted to add,
Okay.
I'm the same with that. Okay, let's go on to the next agenda item. Which is under business and finance. A, consideration to approve an amendment to the debt service fund for refinancing of service 2006. Ms. Danicon.
Thank you. Should I stand? Oh, thank you. With the refinancing of our Series 2006 bonds, we do have to put a journal entry together in order to add the item into our financials. And the way that GASB 65 requests that this journal entry be recorded, it is recorded at the functional level, which of course would exceed our budget. This is very similar to what we did last December when we posted the journal entry for the refinancing of the Series 2005. So, and our audit report would reflect that, our audit schedules would reflect that, and we would be doing it with enough time to submit our preliminary audit information to our auditors. They request a preliminary report dated through June 30th, and that's why I'm asking to include it in here, so they have an opportunity to review it.
Recommendation?
Yes, ma'am. It is the recommendation of the administration of the Board of Trustees approve the amended budget for the debt service fund.
Per the recommendation, is there a motion to approve? Mr. Oberfels and Mr. Chavita? Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Next agenda item is Ms. Yanakani, consideration of approval of local homestead exemption.
I'm passing over to the boss.
Dr. Rios.
We've presented a lot of information and had a lot of discussion. We are gonna recommend that the board approve the resolution that's prepared by our general counsel. I'll state it as a recommendation, unless you want to have discussion first. Further discussion.
Let's go ahead and hear the recommendation.
It is a recommendation of the administration that the board approve the resolution as presented today, which will reduce the optional homestead exemption from 20% to 15%, or $5,000, whichever is greater.
We've heard the recommendation, is there a motion to approve?
Assume.
Mr. Chavita, seconded by Mr. Mesa. Any discussion? Okay. All right, we've heard the recommendation, it's been moved and seconded, it's, let's go ahead and vote, all in favor? 1, 2, 3, in favor, opposed? 1, 2, 3. Okay, because this does have a turnaround time, do we want to have additional discussion? Otherwise, the motion will.
Every time I read, I'm sorry, my president, every time I read, it was just like every time I kept reading, and then I even read in the binder, it kept saying it, it could wait, so November to November. So, just don't, I understand where you're coming from with it, I do, but I just kept reading, and I underlined several things in there where it was just like, it's not clear, it's really not clear to me. It's just so confusing. The proposal's confusing, it's all confusing, so, and that's just my opinion.
Mr. Messenger?
I understand, when I read it, there's a lot of uncertainties,
And
but I
then there's
think,
more information in here as well, I was looking at, and it's confusing, very
right,
confusing.
and I think the only thing I wanna say is in regard to the budget process, we are, looking at different scenarios, and I think it would make it a lot easier for Yanakani and her staff and everyone else involved in the budget to at least have some numbers in mind, and not have a deficit at the end that, if we do a proper budget, that these scenarios are not going to be reality. So that's the only thing that I'd like to interject with. It's the budget timing in regard to this resolution that makes it, necessary that we do something about it.
The only thing that I would add is that the timeline for, reducing the homestead exemption, they very well may come back and clarify and say, oh yes, you do have until November. That's not clear right now. They very well could do that. But I just want to be clear with the board and reiterate what Mr. Mesa said. Our recommendation, whether we can do it now or we can do it in November, that's not the recommendation. The recommendation is to reduce the homestead exemption regardless of whether we can do it now or in November, so that we can provide the additional approximately $500,000, with the understanding that if the state allocates that additional money beyond what they've already allocated, then we will come back and reinstate the homestead exemption. But we would like to have the additional $500,000 to be able to provide for some of these things that we've discussed at length today, including some of the salary increases. But I also want to be clear, we have enough money to provide a balanced budget as we've worked it today. We just won't do some of the extra stuff. However, we would like to do that, so we're recommending to reduce the homestead exemption, regardless whether we do it now or do it in November. Obviously, doing it now allows us to provide those increases without having to wait till the following school year. Yes, ma'am, you're 100% correct. We very well could do this in November, but that would not provide the additional funding for what we discussed today. So the question is not whether we can approve this in November. The question is, do we want to reduce the optional homestead exemption to safeguard that money to provide for some of these considerations that we described today? That's the question. I can reiterate I can rephrase the recommendation to include that it would be reversed if the state makes us whole. But it's about reducing the homestead exemption. And again, we are in no way, shape, or form trying to convince y'all to vote one way or the other. We just want to be clear what we can do with an additional $500,000.
Well, and the reason that I couldn't vote before is because we have, right now we have the option. Later on, we're not gonna have that option, like you were saying, if things didn't turn the way we're looking at it. And the fact is that we're one of the few districts that provide an exemption. And we have the opportunity to play with it, so why not? We're not completely removing it, we're just reducing it with the option to come back and go back to the 20%. And we don't, otherwise we're not gonna be able to provide, November, to me, it's possible, anything is possible. Come November, if we do, everything comes the way we're looking at it on a positive way, then we're gonna have to, if we wanna give, this stipend to those people we talked about, we're not gonna be able to do it at that time. If we do, it's gonna be a lot of problems. So, I can see right now that it's to our benefit.
Yes, Ms. Valdez.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, this is
Yeah,
going
excuse me,
to.
you just don't, and I'd like to hear from you people that voted, everybody, because maybe I'm missing something, and I sure would like to get enlightened on this. Why isn't we not voting? I hate to put the members in the spot, but I sure would like to get an explanation. I'm sorry.
I'll give you some reasons for that there. One is, even though everything we've been presented here tonight, the one thing that will be on social media and all over town tomorrow will be that we reduced the homestead exemption. And people will freak out, thinking their taxes are going to go up, even though, as we know, There's a lot behind it. That does not necessarily mean that unless you're in that top bracket, there, that regardless of whatever the state decides, it's going to increase a little bit, but they're not going to hear that. They're just gonna hear reduction taxes go up there. And if you go back and look 4 years ago, there's stuff where the homestead exemption was up for, the optional one within the district was up for being removed, and it caused a firestorm. I can pull up 1, 2, 3 articles right now. There were those that were here probably remember people in here asking the board to reconsider the decision to end the optional homestead exemption and stuff like that there. So that was something, if you look at 4 years ago, that was discussed, it was something that might happen, and it created a firestorm. And we can pull the minutes from that particular meeting there and see what happened. But no, and the state doesn't know what it's doing. Quite frankly, it's Texas legislature kicking the can to local government and making us decide and deal with the consequences because they don't want to deal with it up at the Capitol there. And I'm not going to have a part in that. And I'm sorry, but mine stays as a no. They're even dealing with the budget crunch and all that, and the state knew districts would be up against the timeline and stuff like that. They're having to do this, and that's why it's worded that way, et cetera. So
Just like it's not clear. It's not your fault. You did a wonderful job. It's not clear. It's just not clear. And it's not. And I keep reading over this, and I'm still thinking it's not clear. I mean, 1 minute you want us to do it before July, correct? And then it says, on this sentence here, but it's not, maybe I'm, like I said, maybe I'm confused, but it is possible that could be done anytime before November. So, I mean, like I said, I'm a little confused. I am. I'm just gonna be very honest. So, it's just a lot of verbiage from you, and a lot of verbiage in this book, and a lot of verbiage from them. And I've said already that it is confusing. They're not clear. They are not clear themselves.
Any other further discussion? Dr. Rios?
We will, if we hear something different from the state that will provide us the $1.6 million, we'll communicate that immediately. To the contrary, we will still prepare a recommendation for increases for July, different scenarios, given the $1.1 million that we have at our disposal. So we're gonna have a balanced budget. We're gonna be okay. But we just have to understand that we have some commitments that we have to fill. And first and foremost among those is the insurance.
Both of y'all spoke so eloquently, I don't want to interject because no one will like what I have to say. But my vote won't change.
Okay, all right, thank you for the discussion, definitely appreciate your insight.
Definitely, and I'm glad we're explaining. It's a good point that was brought up. But my thing is that hopefully people will understand that the reason that I'm looking forward, or was looking towards making a change, was because it could possibly revert back to where it was. And the fact that we enjoyed for the longest time this, we should appreciate it too. Other districts don't, the majority.
I know Dr. Rios, who pulled the minutes. What did they reveal?
Well, the minutes show that the board did take a vote on the homestead exemption on June 23rd. However, what's not clear, it says that the agenda item was consideration and possible action to reduce or eliminate the local homestead exemption. I just would have to look at the previous meeting, to see if there was an action item, but on this one, it was discussion, and the recommendation was to not do, to reinstate the 20%. However, the recommendation to reinstate the 20% implies that it was previously rescinded. So I'd have to look at the previous meeting, but on this one, a vote was clearly taken. However, I don't have the previous agenda, so I don't know if it had been taken away and this were reinstated, or if this was just a recommendation that was.
What's the date of the minutes that show the vote?
June 23rd, which is, this is June 23rd.
What year?
2011.
It was done at the April 11 board meeting. I have the News Herald article.
At the April 11.
April regular board meeting is when it happened. It says in April, the school board repealed the exemption,
Okay, so
which
that
allowed
was-
for a 20% reduction, and then was the whole thing about,
Look at the minutes and read them.
Right. I'll look at the April one, Dr. Yars will pull it up over in executive session.
It's for clarity purposes, we learned, but thank you for, the discussion. Okay, moving on along, human resources, consideration to approve the employee job description and evaluation form for the security department, district chief of police, Dr. McNamara.
Okay. Madam President, members of the board, and Dr. Rios, would you like to present that, Dr. Rios?
We want to post the job for the chief of police tomorrow. I brought it at the previous board meeting, I shared with y'all that we would be doing that, but that I wanted y'all to review the job description, that we currently have. I really have no basis for changing it. But I did want the board to look at it, and if there's any recommendations, we'll certainly entertain them, and act on that recommendation. But everyone has seen it. Are there any questions for Dr. McNamara or myself, or really the cabinet's informed the job description, about the job description that we've had, for the last few years?
Did you read the job description, Joe?
Hold on, show it up there.
Wait,
Do we get it? Did you? I have an extra copy. No problem, I have an extra.
Yeah, he provided.
Yeah, he provided it.
Several
Is it
copies,
that-
different
Does anybody else?
examples.
Thank you, just a second. Okay, in case someone else knows.
And like Dr. Rios said, there are no changes from the last board meeting that was presented.
Did you want her to read it out loud, the requirements of the publication?
Requirements.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Anybody have any questions?
Nothing would change except, on the qualifications, right, except,
Didn't change anything.
what is, TCO, Texas what?
T-close.
That's TCOS, their certification to be a peace officer.
Oh, peace, okay.
Yes.
Dr. Rios, for the ones the one that you sent us on the communique, did it have master peace officer on there as well?
Unless there was a mistake, it's.
Master's degree.
Master's degree.
One of the, you have a several
Oh,
factors.
Yes. It was a master's degree, but it was just the actual degree, 36 hours master's program. That was it, and that was just one of the options, but the job description, that we provided in the packet was just the current job description, which is what we're presenting today. The only change is director of security, to district chief of police, and, just clarifications. They went from being a T-close certification to T-co, but they chose to drop the E and the S. But that's just a formality, it's nothing substantive of what we're doing.
the recommendation of administration that the district chief of police job description and evaluation forms be approved as presented this evening by Dr. Rios.
Is there a motion to approve? Mr. Overfelt first, Mr. Mesa second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, did you have?
Yeah, just a note, you said you're looking to involve local law enforcement, just for guidelines and stuff like that, maybe in the process of
Yes, sir.
like recommendations of what to look for, et cetera.
Yes, sir. I've reached out to 3 individuals so far. One from the Texas Rangers, one from Border Patrol, and Laughlin, the Director of Security at Laughlin. Those are 3 individuals that have already confirmed that they can participate. And I will reach out to one more person. The recommendation from Laughlin was that they would love to participate, but they also encouraged me to have 2 other people who are non police law enforcement individuals in the committee. At this point, I haven't really decided if that's going to be some of our principals or just community members.
Thank you.
And the posting will go out tomorrow.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
The other part that I just wanted to clarify is related to the item, is that we have positions posted, but we do not intend to fill any of those positions until the new chief of police is hired, because we feel that we will be able to hire one before the school year starts. So I don't want any, I guess, confusion in that area.
For clarification purposes, you have other positions posted for, I mean, within the district of security, right? I mean, the department, it's not just general.
Right.
It's clear, it's like we have other positions posted, yes, but these are positions that are posted specifically that the chief, the new chief will
Would hire.
actually hire.
Yes, and
Just
so, Dr. McNamara and I are clear, no hires for the police department, until the new chief of police is hired.
Thank you.
Dr. McNamara, I know you're studying what you do, but we're,
No, I'm just checking because I'm just checking on, how many positions we had in security and the peace officer position, because we did have a reassignment within the district, a week or so ago. And so I was just checking to see if they were on the schedule for them to review. And they are.
I'm sorry, clarify that, reassignment from what position to what position?
There was a reassignment,
No, you have to give the name, just give me the.
correct, yes, it's, San Felipe Memorial Middle and high school. There was a flip, a switch.
Oh, but that's
Just a
not.
reassignment within and then we had one security guard at San Felipe Memorial Middle, that we hired, within the last couple of weeks, since the last board meeting.
And that's that person that, I discussed that with the board, there's no school right now, so
Right.
the switch, we can wait on it. It doesn't affect summer school, does it?
No, but it's already been done, the letter's already been out, it's already approved.
It's just that more data.
Correct, and he, also had a change because of, certification.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Raise your right hand. Mr. Chavita, all in favor?
Thank you.
All opposed? The motion carries. All right. Closed session is next on the agenda. It is now 9:33. The Board of Trustees will recess this open session before meeting and closed meeting In accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, subchapter D and E. We're able to do this under sections 551.071 through 551.074, 551.076, 551.082, 551.084. All final votes, actions, or decisions will be taken in open session. We will, in closed session, discuss pursuant to 551.074, discussion of personnel or complaints against personnel. Discussion of personnel report to include the following: new hires, district vacancies, retirements/resignations. 2, discussion of salary adjustments to include but not limited to the following justifications: service credit, master's degree stipends. 3, discussion of the head swim treasurers. We are now in closed session. It is now 10:03 p.m. The Board of Trustees will recess this. The Board of Trustees will now reconvene in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, subchapter D and E. No action is taken in closed session. We are reconvening. Dr. McNamara, consideration to approve the personnel report to include new hires, district vacancies, retirements, resignations.
Madam President, members of the board, and Dr. Rios, the administration respectfully requests your approval for the following teachers, instructional and instructional coach. I'll start first with Ms. Gabriela Calderon, elementary instructional coach for Garfield Elementary. Mr. Raul Hurtado for CTE digital media technology teacher at Del Rio High School. Ms. Alon Celeste Viviar, English teacher at Del Rio Freshman Campus. Ms. Christina Thomas, pre-K teacher at Irene Cardwell Elementary School. Ms. Anna Karen Civetta, 5th grade bilingual teacher, Ruben Chavita Elementary. Ms. Rosalinda Castillo, art teacher, Ruben Chavita Elementary. Ms. Alma de la Rosa, 3rd grade teacher, Lamar Elementary. Ms. Amanda Garcia, 3rd grade teacher, Lamar Elementary. Ms. Catherine Malone, 5th grade teacher at Calderon Elementary. Ms. Brittany Calavera, 4th grade teacher at Calderon Elementary. Ms. Rachel Hines, 2nd grade teacher at Dr. Femine Calderon Elementary. Ms. Amaris Martinez, 3rd grade teacher at North Heights Elementary. Ms. Victoria Rendez, 5th grade teacher at North Heights Elementary. And that concludes our recommendations this evening.
Okay, we've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve? Mr. Overfeld, Mr. Jovita seconded. All in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Consideration to approve salary adjustments to include but not limited to service credit, master's degree stipends, Dr. McNamara.
Madam President, members of the board, and Dr. Rios. It is the recommendation of the administration that the salary adjustments be approved as presented this evening in closed executive session.
You've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve? Mr. Jovita, second. Seconded by Mr. Overfeld. All those in favor? Unanimous, motion carries.
Thank you.
Consideration to approve the head swim coach, Dr. McNamara.
Again, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Rios, it is a recommendation of the administration that Ms. Colleen Durham be approved this evening as our head swimming coach.
We've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion? Mr.